I currently sitting in front of a painting of the Last Supper, except instead of the 12 disciples, it's 12 members of the Glee cast. Yeah. And am I embarrassed by that? Not as much as I should be. Hello users of the internet, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're one of my current 1.06 thousand subscribers, I don't know, full transparency, I haven't been on YouTube in a while, then welcome back. And if you're not, the fact that my lack of consistency hasn't compelled you to subscribe is insane. So I'm back again after several months. Last time we checked in, I had COVID. Update, I no longer have that because it's literally the end of April. So I'm gonna be telling a story time that I've had in my notes for a while, from October to be exact, but better late than never. As some of you may know, I moved back to New York City in September 2021. Came here, had to find an apartment building incredibly quickly, settled into my very small studio, and tried to build a new life for myself. One day, sometime around mid-October, I got a message from my mailroom saying that I needed to go collect a package. Popped down there. There was some weird sign out the front saying we're gonna be back in 10 minutes, so I took a beat. I chilled in line, went on my phone, was minding my own business. Behind me, a man appears. Keep in mind, COVID's pretty rampant. Everyone's wearing masks in the apartment building. I could not properly see who this man is, though full transparency, it wouldn't have helped the situation. So said man approaches me and asks if I know what time the mail clerk's gonna be back. And I said, look, I'm not totally sure, but based on the sign, I'm gonna guess within the next 10 minutes. I was personally worried that I came off as incredibly sarcastic. That tends to be a thing that happens. Turns out I came off incredibly Irish, because he was like, let me guess, Dublin? And I was like, close. Sydney, Australia. And he was like, oh, sorry, you know, when you get a snippet of an accent, sometimes it's kind of hard to gauge where you're from. But Australia, interesting. That's actually one of the hardest accents for actors to do. And I said, actually, I'm studying acting. One of the only reasons I'm glad I'm Australian is that I have the accent down. He was like, oh, you're an actor. I said, yeah, I'm an actor. And he said, oh, I'm in the industry myself. And I said, what do you do? Are you working on anything at the moment? And he said, yeah, I'm working on a series for Apple TV. My interest peaked. I thought this is an employment opportunity. Thank God I casually slipped in that I was an actor. Next step, whip out a headshot, whip out a resume, shoot my shot. But then, alas, the mail clerk returned. I went in to collect my piece of mail and I thought that that would be the end of our exchange. It was not. He then followed up and said, hey, Annabelle. I actually can't remember whether or not I told him my name. I really hope I did. And then said, can I show you something for a minute? I know what you're thinking. It was not his penis. Takes out his phone, shows me a photo of him holding an Oscar. Like, not just holding someone else's Oscar, but like giving an acceptance speech at the Academy Awards while holding a small gold man. I was flabbergasted, starstruck, knocked off my feet. Of course, again, he was wearing a mask, so I couldn't really tell whether or not he looked like the man in the photo, but I was taking his word for it. The way I'm framing this story is making it seem like he posed as an Oscar winner. No, he very much was this Oscar winner, which makes the tale that I'm about to tell even weirder. Anyway, then he properly introduced himself. Obviously, for the purposes of anonymity, I'm going to use some kind of pseudonym. Let's call him Henry. So he was like, hey, I'm Henry. If you ever want to like talk about the industry or whatever, I think we should meet up. Are you good at pool? And I thought, oh my God, this is actually my moment of discovery. Like, you know those stories about how Sarah Michelle Gellar was at a Times Square McDonald's and was approached by an agent? Or how David Boreanaz was just walking his dog down the street the day before he was cast as Angel? I don't know why my two casting references are very Buffy the Vampire Slayer centric, but nevertheless, I thought that this was my dog walk. I thought that this was my happy meal. So I said, do I play pool? Funny you should ask. My uncle is actually a professional Australian snooker player. Because in my mind, I was going to be cast as the lead in his Apple TV series about a female pool champion. The 8 Balls Gambit, if you will. Now, is that fact that I gave him about my uncle actually correct? Lo and behold, it is. Does that mean that I'm any good at pool or snooker or whatever you want to call it in whatever country you're from? Absolutely not. I'm horrendous. But nevertheless, that seemed to do the trick because he was like, wow, let's meet up sometime, play pool in the common area, or like maybe do karaoke, which I leapt onto. I said, yes, I love karaoke. I love it. Love a musical number. So he put his number in my phone and that was that. So I go back to my apartment and try and Google who the hell this man is. He'd told me that he was a director and a writer. So I Googled Henry, director, writer, Oscar winner. And lo and behold, he came up. I looked at his filmography, recognized one pretty famous film in particular for which he wrote the screenplay and won an Academy Award. So I was freaking out. I was like, literally, what are the odds that this man lives in my random building? New York City, folks. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, am I right? I don't know. But then, several minutes later, he texts me. Now, fully aware of who he is, I'm getting nervous. The stakes are high. He says, I'd love to meet up. How's your schedule Monday and Tuesday? I said, great. He said, how about a late lunch or tea at 3 near our building? I said, sounds great. Looking forward to it. Pretty professional. He dropped the word schedule in there. I'm thinking, this is a full-on business meeting. Should I get representation and also bring them to the lunch? Get his people to meet my people? Set something up professionally? But then I thought, hey, I'm chill. I'm casual. I'm an independent businesswoman who can handle her own affairs. I meet up with him at this restaurant. He then just kind of starts quizzing me about random movies to kind of get a sense of how cultured I am. At one point he starts talking about foreign cinema and I was like, yeah, I've seen Amelie. He mentioned an Italian movie. I said Life is Beautiful is really emotional. Just referencing any vaguely foreign film I've ever seen or heard of. I was full on job interview yes-anding. In the back of my mind, there was like this weird kind of fear, thought, inkling that maybe this wasn't a fully professional business meeting, considering he's never seen me act. But just to be safe, I kept constantly talking about my parents. I talked about the fact that I couldn't ride a bike, dropping in the fact that I'm young. I don't know how to be an adult, and I'm definitely not old enough to be viable dating material for you. Side note, 51-year-old man. But he seems to be picking up on that. Whenever I make any kind of reference to any movie made more than 2 years ago, he's like, whoa, you must have been a baby when that came out. He was giving me industry advice, asking me about my college degree, which again, I thought would be a really great signifier that I'm a student, I'm a youth. I'm not looking for a relationship with a 51-year-old man. The next thing he floated by me was the fact that because he's a part of the Academy, he gets to go to Academy screenings of movies and vote for whether or not new movies coming out each year get to be nominated for Oscars, and that he gets to bring a +1. And that in fact, there was a screening, an early preview screening of the movie last night in Soho that very night, and that I could go with him. I forgot to mention this, but he also did specify that a lot of the time to these events, he likes to bring students of acting, students of film, students who are aspiring to make it in the industry, just to give them a little foot in the door, a little sneak preview at what success in this field looks like. Again, just trying to make excuses for why I didn't see any glaringly obvious red flags. Obviously, what am I to say? But yes. I called my mom, freaking out, told her everything. She was like, oh my god, you absolutely have to go to that screening. That's crazy. I got ready super quickly, Ubered to the movie, which was ironically in Soho. Sat down, there was a star-studded audience. In front of me, Anna Sophia Robb. To my left, Mark Duplass. To my right, I had to write down her name, Gina Gershon. Embarrassingly, I know her as Jughead's mom in Riverdale, but still, what a star-studded selection. And of course, the director of the movie, Edgar Wright. Honestly, didn't really like the film. Think it was a bit of a flop. I think it took itself way too seriously for what it was. Especially because Edgar Wright introduced the film as his masterpiece. Like, okay, it's no Shaun of the Dead. But afterwards, I got the opportunity to meet Anna Sophia Robb. We talked at length about the fact that she's just got engaged. We then had a movie-themed cocktail of Vespa together. This was like straight up fantasy out of a movie stuff. And Henry just happened to be there. He was doing that weird thing that guys, particularly older guys, do sometimes where they like put their hand behind your back and lead you somewhere. But I thought, okay, he's 51 years old. This is just a weird old man chivalry thing. Also, the man has as an Oscar. I'm not gonna stuff this up. After the premiere, he then was like, do you wanna go to a rooftop bar near our apartment, talk about the movie? Looking, like, even just saying that sentence, that sounds like a red flag, but I swear to God, at the time, it did not feel like it. I thought, yeah, he just values my opinion as a film critic and wants to know what I thought of Edgar's new work. So we go to this rooftop bar, he buys me a gin and tonic. Also, literally does not know how old I am. He knows that I'm a sophomore in college, so for all he knows, he could be buying a 19-year-old alcohol in this country illegally. He's not, but he could be, you know? We talk about how the movie sucked, but then the conversation kind of turns to, wow, you seem really mature for your age. And instantly I wanted to shut that down. I was like, actually, I'm just faking it. And he said, no, maybe it's because you're not American, but don't sell yourself short. You've got a really sophisticated mind. I've seen Amelie, but you know what? He left it there, so I decided I could just take the compliment. He then said, can I walk you back to your place as a little joke? Because haha, we live in the same building. And then in the stairwell said, I'd invite you up to mine, but I'm in the process of moving, so my place is a mess. Again, like that's ew, such a red flag. But I tried to breeze past it because the next thing that came out of his mouth was an invite to another premiere the following night of Belfast with writer-director Kenneth Branagh. Just a little bit of backstory. Kenneth Branagh is one of my mother's favorite people. We have a poster of him in our hallway at home. I kind of feel like he's another father in a way. Did I have a class the following night? Yeah. Was I fully intending to blow that up to go meet Kenneth Branagh? Also, yeah. And then when I called my mom and asked her for advice, what do you think she said? Of course she said go. What am I gonna do? Say, sorry, Sir Kenneth? I have to go to my debating class? Absolutely not. So I arrived the next night. The audience is popping off, perhaps even more. I wrote a small list of the celebrities in attendance. Kevin Bacon, Kira Sedgwick, Zachary Quinto, the guy who played Jonathan from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Have I already name dropped Buffy twice in this video? Yeah. So am I a fan of the show? You could say that. And if you have said that, you're correct. I'm currently staring at a poster for the show in front of me, and my dog in Sydney is named Buffy. Like, what more evidence do you need? I don't know why I'm trying so hard to prove it to you. You probably do believe me. It's a weird thing to lie about. So during the screening of Belfast, this kind of weird touching escalated. He was like constantly leaning over or like trying to reach his arm around, making a lot of weird, uncomfortable physical advances. So I'm literally hunched over myself in the corner, leaning. I think I was like almost in the lap of the person on the other side of me, just trying to physically get away. I was not being remotely subtle. But then that kind of eventually tapered off. The movie ended. I got to play the room a bit. Did I shake hands with Sir Kenneth? Yes, I did. Did I get to have an in-depth conversation with the guy who played Jonathan in Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Yeah. And was it a life highlight? Probably. I told him that I loved him in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and also loved him in Gilmore Girls, and he said, wow, thank you so much. I've actually retired from acting now. And I said, well, I mean, you can with that resume. And he said, absolutely right. Those are my career peaks. We were riffing until Henry came over, and Jonathan from Buffy the Vampire Slayer's girlfriend was like, oh, we just came from the mountains. If you guys ever do a little road trip up there, we know a lovely place to stay. And I was like, wait, what does everyone else think of the relationship between Henry and I? Do they see him as a director and an up-and-coming actress who he's attempting to mentor and show the industry to? Or do they see me as his outrageously youngest side piece and see him as like a sugar daddy? Because if so, I've been cut off. I need to leave. I need to head home. So sorry, my Uber has arrived. Henry then was like, so how about that karaoke? At this point, it's like 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night. As just kind of a general defense mechanism, the day before he had asked me whether or not I lived alone, and I was like, okay, even though I'm not sensing any red flags, he does live in my building and I don't really want him to know that I'm by myself. So I lied and said I had a roommate. And this was a great time for me to bring that lie back. I said, okay, we can go to karaoke, but is it okay if my roommate comes along? Because she's just finished class and is super keen for a night out. My next task was finding a fake roommate. A friend that I had at the time, who I am no longer talking to. Again, for the purposes of anonymity, let's give this friend like a weird pseudonym. I'm just gonna pick a letter of the alphabet. G.
And that's what you missed on G.
I messaged G and said, hey, this is a lot to ask, but I was wondering if you were free right now and if you'd be able to kind of be a buffer so that this situation doesn't get too weird. And G was actually really killing it this night. She really came through despite her flaws in other areas as a friend. She really pulled through. She said, I'm on my way. Send me the address, I'll be there. The three of us arrive at this karaoke bar. And oh my god, Henry took it so seriously. He signed up for so many songs and so many like random songs that I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be familiar with unless he was trying to seduce someone in their early 20s. He started singing Harry Styles. Because obviously he thought that that's what I would like. Joke's on him. I know about 2 songs made in this century, and if they were made in this century, I only know them from Glee. I obviously was not on the same karaoke wavelength. I sang one of my go-tos, Total Eclipse the Heart, and then G and I did a duet of Hit Me Baby One More Time. Show me how you want it to be. Like, we were in very different performative spheres. But then at one point, I needed to go to the bathroom, so Henry went up to G and said, like, what are the vibes? And G was like, what do you mean? And he said, does she like me? And G was confused and said, I think Annabelle really respects you. And he said, okay, but like, come on, like, does she like me? She must have mentioned it. I choose this point to come back from the bathroom, inadvertently, unknowingly shut the conversation down. He then starts again bringing up how mature I am. He's like, you know, you're so beyond your years. You must really struggle to find a connection with guys your age. And I said, like maybe when I was a teenager, but now in their 20s, everyone's kind of figuring stuff out. Levels of female male maturity are getting more even. And he said, oh no, trust me. It takes until a man's about probably my age to be as mature as you are. At this point, the red flags everywhere. They're a sea. They've created the Red Sea. I'm sorry for the biblical allusion. That's one more than is necessary in this video. Then he runs to go request another song. G comes up to me and finally fills me in on what he said while I was in the bathroom. I get immediately creeped out. The next song that starts playing in the karaoke room that Henry signed both me and him up for, Summer Nights from Greece. He wanted me to be the Sandy to his Danny, and I wanted to throw up. So we were on 2 different wavelengths. He then started like weirdly trying to massage me, and then at the end of the song really sloppily kissed me on the cheek. And like, when I say sloppily, I mean full tongue. If you can imagine someone trying to French kiss a cheek. Why? Maybe he really likes the taste of 4-year-old Sephora products? I don't know. That's on Henry. But at this point, I feel like I'd taken absolutely as much uncomfortability as I could. I tried to put up with things for as long as possible, just to be polite. I'm really bad at confrontation. I'll just kind of put up with things for a while and not acknowledge any boundaries I have. But this stepped over the line. I wanted to go home. But the problem was, he and I share a home. If I said, actually, I'm getting a bit tired, I'm gonna call it a night, he'd say, great, let's Uber back to ours. Also, G's not actually my roommate. If we all get an Uber back to our place, she does not actually live there. So we formulated a mini plan on our own. We said, look, he's elderly. He's a 51-year-old man. At this point, it's 2 a.m. If we say we want to keep going out because we're college students and not anywhere near as mature as he keeps professing I am, he's gonna tire out. He's not gonna want to come with us to the next bar. So we said, hey, we're actually thinking of hitting this musical theater bar in Greenwich Village. But instead of saying, oh, I'm just gonna call it a night, he said, great, I'll come with. Luckily, once we got to that musical theater bar, it was incredibly crowded and we somehow got separated from him. Weirdly, he did still like stick around for another hour, but after that, he eventually found us and said, hey girls, is it okay if I go home? I'm getting a bit tired. And we said, absolutely. Please, Henry, live your truth. Thank you so much for coming, but we can take it from here. He left, and I thought that that would be the end of it. Did he launch my acting career? Absolutely not. But did I get to go to 2 Academy movie premieres and meet a bunch of celebrities and only have to put up with a bit of inappropriate touching? Yeah. So that's kind of a successful 48 hours. So then the next day comes. I don't hear anything from Henry. I don't think it's that weird. Maybe he finally picked up on the vibe that I don't want to sleep with him. However, 11 p.m. rolls around, and who does he text? G, saying, lovely to meet you last night. What are you doing? Smiley face. Like, I'm sorry, that is the 51-year-old equivalent of you up. So what? He figured, I'm not gonna get in with her, gonna find the next random aspiring actress in her early 20s who I can set my sights on. I mean, I have a few questions. One main one being, how did he get G's number? But I think that might be more on her, because as I said, she can make some questionable choices and pull some radical moves. But also that's what really cemented for me that Henry, weird bro, weird guy. Like at first I was like, maybe it was me. Maybe he just weirdly liked me for no reason. But now that he's also hitting up G the next day, I'm like, wait. He just likes young, vulnerable girls he thinks he can take advantage of. Well, joke's on you, because after 48 hours, maybe I might find a boundary. I honestly was kind of shocked that this whole thing happened. I mean, one, what are the odds? This does not seem plausible. And also number two, I thought that after the whole Me Too Harvey Weinstein thing, that guys in the industry were less inclined to pull this kind of thing. Obviously, I'm not saying I was Me Too'd. Like, what happened with me was really not that big a deal. This was not a casting couch situation, because I don't think I was ever gonna be cast in his Apple TV series. So I'm like, what was this? Did we date? Did he just think the whole time that I really wanted to date him? If so, Henry, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. No, that's why I kept mentioning how much I depend on my parents, who are very close to you in age. But I just thought that that was something pretty crazy that happened within a month of moving to the city that I could share with you all. And by you all again, I mean my family watching. And that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed listening to this wacky story time about some questionable people in the industry, then please thumbs up and subscribe. And if you didn't because you feel like I led on this 51-year-old man, then please just do it anyway, because that was not my intention. And I'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Stay safe out there. Why are there just constant sirens in New York?